How's it going, everyone? It's Juan Romero here from SwitchWatch. I'm back with another review. Today it's an indie game called Slain, Back from Hell, provided to us by Digitari. Don't want to keep you waiting, so let's get straight into the review. You are awoken by the gods. You are tasked with clearing the doom which shrouds 6 gothic-looking realms and defeating the bosses which have a stranglehold on them. All you have is your sword, which gives off an aura of power. You will face many minions on the way and will no doubt perish many times. As the hero, do you have what it takes to reach the conclusion and find out the origins of where both you and that mighty sword came from? Now let's get straight to the point on the audio. If you love heavy metal, you're going to absolutely love this soundtrack. In Slain, Back from Hell, the title of this game sounds like it could belong to a heavy metal band, let alone a video game. It could be the name of an album, and as a lover of many different genres of music myself, I found myself very much enjoying the soundtrack here. The music, composed by Kurt Victor Bryant, ties the game together nicely. The creator of the game wanted the music to sound doom-esque while moving through the levels. The riffs and thrashing of those wonderful electric guitars intertwine with the immersive and alive feeling environments. While the music is not quite to the level of Doom, for example, it's right up there for a game, and for an indie title it's seriously impressive. The sound effects are just as good when striking an enemy with your sword and hearing the effect when the blood and gore splats out. It's really satisfying. Hearing a fireball come towards you but not seeing it prepares you to make that all-important jump or defensive block. Furthermore, you're able to hit these projectiles back from where they came, and if you get the timing right, it's superb. The game's sound design is a real highlight here, and for me personally it strikes a chord. Having listened to many metal bands from the 80s and 90s, although I can completely appreciate it will come down to taste, and some may be turned off by the heavy metal sounds here. So moving on to visuals, performance and design. I personally love Castlevania games, and highlights for me included Symphony of the Night, Area of Sorrow, and of course the original Castlevania. I have enjoyed many others, but they are the ones which stood out to me, and each person will have their favourites for differing reasons, and it's only natural that people will compare this game to those. One of the highlights of this game is definitely the visuals. Quite frankly, for me anyway, they are stunning. Andrew Gilmore, the developer of the game, is an animator at heart, and it shows in everything he has touched here. The setting is a fantasy gothic environment, and wow, it's just so immersive. Everything moves from plants, snow droplets, rain to the hair on our controllable hero. The attention to detail here is astonishing and is a fantastic use of pixel art. The thing with Slain is they have taken the retro 16-bit style and have taken it a step further with today's technologies. The detail in the environments is really impressive and makes you as the player feel so much more immersed in the game. The levels, although 2D, have layers and use the colour palette here to fantastic use, but I have to say the lighting is probably what impressed me the most. The animations of the characters and enemies are smooth, fluid, and all look great. There are lots of particle effects here as well, and they're used to perfection. You could literally stand around and take in this game's beauty, which I did do a couple of times, especially in the Wolf's Cave. The environments are also diverse and each giving you different challenges. This is a game that should be released physically with a great box, art and a nice little manual. I would buy that in a heartbeat. Release the soundtrack also with it. Take my money right this second. The enemies here are really quite diverse in terms of their design. You have skeletons, fire-breathing type creatures, flying creatures, which I call mana eaters by the way, as they like to swoop down and eat up your mana any chance they get, and they're annoying as they sound. The bosses though look absolutely superb. Now the game ran smoothly, well in both handheld and in docked mode with no sign of the dreaded slowdown. It ran flawlessly during my time of the game, which I'm really happy to report. The design of this game map, it's much more linear experience of getting from one side of the level to the other. The design of the levels does allow for some secrets to be found, which is nice when you come across them, and rewards the player a little if they're prepared to explore. So far so good with the game. The sound and visuals are top notch, but here most importantly it's all about fun factor and how it plays. Now, as I said before, if you've played Castlevania games in the past, then you'll probably know that the bar is set quite high in this genre. Those games in my eyes, well, most of them are brilliant. Unfortunately, having beautiful visuals and a great musical score can only take you so far. While I had a lot of fun with Slain, it's not up to Castlevania standards by any means in terms of gameplay, in my view, but then again, few games really are. When Slain was originally released, it received a very poor reception. The game controlled poorly, wasn't fun to play, so fair play to Wolf Brew Games as they took all the feedback and improved the original release beyond measure, and they came back with Slain Back from Hell, which to be fair is an apt name. You have to commend the developer for trying their best to improve on their original game. This is a hack and slash, simple enough 2D platformer, and one that is very proud to be so. On the Switch, the controls are tight and responsive. This game is basically about platforming and fighting monsters, and some of the jumps you have to make need to be precise. Furthermore, the swipe of the sword needs to work when you command it to at the precise moment. There are times when you'll want to swipe your sword to rebound fireballs back to where they came, or hit a flying enemy at just the right time to take them down. Here you have your basic button mash attack, which swipes your sword. If you hold down the button, you'll unleash a special melee attack, and if you release that button at just the right time, you will release that special attack. Now, I used a special melee attack more against the larger monsters that I came across and against some bosses when I could, and it's really useful in the game. You can of course jump, but you can't perform a double jump here. You also have a mana attack, which comes in handy to perform long-range attacks. There is also a more powerful version of this. If you again hold down the button and then release, you can block, but the downside of using the special attack is your mana bar wipes out in just 2 uses. A backdash complements the moveset and can be used to dodge incoming attacks by sliding backwards quickly, and you can also use your block, as I've just said. Now, anyone who thinks they can get through this game whilst button mashing is sorely mistaken. There are some parts where you can, but most of the enemies will require use of skill and timing. For example, much like in Dark Souls, if you try and button mash, you're not going to last 5 minutes, and I think this game reminds me a lot of Dark Souls quite a bit, just in 2D guise. A good example is when you come up against the knights, who have huge swords but are slow. Go in and button mash, and within 2 blows from the knight, it's all over. You need to let the knight attack first, let him wield that sword, and you need to be just far enough away so you can have enough time to power up your special attack and then release. Now, you could waste your spells on them, but no doubt you'll have to kill another straight after. There was a part in this game where I needed to kill 5 or 6 of these in a row, and that special attack was what got me through. They also have cool looking wolf spells which they can release, which is super irritating to say the least. My point is, you need to get to know enemies' attack patterns in order for you to come out of these fights unscathed, and there's a lot of enemies like this throughout Slain, which keeps it varied. Now, on the way to the end level bosses, you're going to fight a lot of enemies, and if you love bosses, then this is your game, because you have to fight mini boss fights, then there's sub mini boss fights, and then macro sub mini boss fights. I kid you not, it's boss after boss, and I found the game to be quite fun, but also really frustrating. You're going to die a lot here, no matter how skilled you are, and some of those bosses will test your patience. The jumps, avoiding traps, killing enemies will take their toll, and really it's a case of trial and error and making sure you do better the next time around, but you do have to have the skill and patience to do this. The only reward is the satisfaction that you get a little bit further in the level each time by reaching that next checkpoint. By this time, you can't make yourself a cup of tea, take a deep breath and calm down. Some of the levels are just brutal, and I think I must have died so many times that I did eventually lose count. Now, there's no crafting or grinding here to get stronger. In fact, it's one of the selling points of the game itself. Now, while that may be the case, I was yearning for a little bit more depth, but I did also appreciate the simplicity and that pick up and play feeling. There are no power-ups as such, but you will attain elemental powers for your sword later on, such as ice or fire, and a few more abilities which look super cool. There are some really awesome parts of the game, and one such highlight is when you're being chased by a massive white wolf and have to traverse a number of platforms quickly to get away. You morph into a beast yourself, and this brought back memories of Altered Beast, which I loved back in the day on the Mega Drive. If you've played Butcher as well, which is another great little indie game on the Switch, then this is quite similar in terms of challenge, and I'm talking about Butcher in hard mode here. I grew up playing games like these in arcades, spending too much money, and was glad when they started to appear on the home consoles, as I always end up losing my time on the console instead. For me and the guys and girls who grew up playing these types of games, think about Ghosts and Goblins for example, then you'll know where I'm coming from, and this is probably inspired by games like those. So in terms of value, there are little secrets to be found, but there's not that many. There's 6 levels to beat in total. That doesn't sound like a lot, you may say, but trust me, it's going to take you a good while. You're going to die a lot, so it's probably going to take you around 4 to 6 hours, dependent on your skill level. Now there are secrets to go back and find, which will give you a talisman pieces, which will make up a talisman in the end. It's only very good for the last boss and not really needed, to be fair. The game is a little bit more expensive than other indie titles at £17.99 or $19.99, but in my opinion you're getting quite fair value here, and there will be a number of players returning to perfect their sword slaying skills and to get better level time. So in terms of the summary here, if you love a brutal challenge and don't mind dying over and over again, then this will be the game for you. If you don't find that fun, then please guys, stay well clear. There are no difficulty settings here. It is what it is, so you either live with it or you don't. Now it's a shame the developers didn't include a casual setting to at least make the game a little bit more accessible to more people. I'm fine myself with a brutal challenge like this, but many will give up and won't sink in the required hours, which is a shame, as for me there is quite a lot to see here. A stunning visual style accompanied by great metal soundtrack and gameplay which feels satisfying as long as you're willing to have the patience to master it, make for a really nice little package. A 7.5 then out of 10. Now if you enjoyed this review guys, we put a lot of time into these, so please hit that thumbs up for us. It really helps the channel out. Leave me a comment down below, let me know what you think of the game or any other Nintendo Switch game. I'll be delighted to reply to you. And last but not least, if you're a new watcher here, then consider subscribing to our channel. We'd love to see you again on the next one. We do have a website, www.switchwatch.co.uk, if you want to read the written review of Slain. Now my name is Juan Romero from SwitchWatch. You know what I'm going to say guys. I'll see you on the next one.